Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something I think a lot of people struggle with,
Right.
and that's the stubborn, frustrating return of fear. I mean, you've done the work, you've clarified your intention, you know you're operating from a higher place, deep in what the sources call the creator phase, and still.
And yet the noise just, it persists.
Yeah, we're diving into a really fascinating stack of notes from the Z Creation OS dialogue. And the mission today is to figure out why this fear hits and maybe more importantly, what it actually means.
Okay.
We're looking at what happens when your core intention, what the notes call the I layer, makes a fundamental seismic change to your reality's operating system, the physical rendering unit, or PRU.
Right. So this isn't just generalized worry. We're talking about that specific moment when the PRU is actively rewriting your world line.
Exactly.
And that's when the conscious part of you, the me layer, gets incredibly uncomfortable. The anxiety is suddenly very practical. It's panic over cash flow, taxes, stability, the logistics of this huge new thing you just launched. It's the deployment phase. That's the key. The notes are really clear that you've moved past the heavy lifting of the OS installation, the magnum opus or integration. You are now running the world on the new system.
You're in the creator phase.
You're in the creator phase. But when you hit go on that huge world line change, the system doesn't just quietly update. It kind of throws a fit.
And that's a huge insight from these sources. They argue this panic isn't a sign that the plan is failing.
No, not at all. It's actually a highly predictable pattern that signals success. But to understand that, we have to look at the different layers in the system, because right now they're out of sync.
Okay, lay it all for us.
So your deepest intention, your I layer, has already designed and passed off the new reality. Let's say you've created a project with a guaranteed outcome.
Right.
But the old system, it doesn't just vanish. The conscious identity, your me layer, starts screaming. It's triggering all the old alarm bells, funding alerts, tax reminders, that low hum of, what if this whole thing collapses?
I can absolutely relate to this. After 20 years of running a business, you finish the hardest part, the structure is in place, and then, bam, the fear is right there. So why do the notes insist this isn't a genuine threat?
Because it's running on old data. It is, and I'm quoting here, the last act of resistance from the me layer, which is stuck reading old world line logs.
Old logs.
Think of it this way. The actual threat, the old future where you failed, that log has been completely deleted by the I layer's command. The reality shift is already happening.
So this is where that analogy comes in. The deleted folder shortcut remaining on the desktop.
That's the one. The file is gone, the danger is gone, but the emotional UI notification, it still sounds off. It's a phantom alert, a stubborn PyCon alarm, as the notes call it.
It's just latency.
Pure latency. And you've got 4 layers interacting here. You have Z, the source field, which has adopted the new future, the I layer, which gets it as a clear premonition. The PRU is actively rewriting physical reality.
But me is lagging behind.
Me is panicking, running on old residual data. And this is the profound part. The anxiety you feel is actually a synchronous sign that the rewrite is nearing completion.
Wow. Okay, so it's a progress bar that feels like a warning siren.
A very loud one.
And the notes even talk about the daily version of this, right? That anxiety that hits you the second you wake up.
Yeah, they call it the OS boot sound.
I like that.
For someone who's been an entrepreneur for a long time, that morning routine, that quick check of your survival status is a script that's hard-coded deep into the PRU and me layers.
Oh, yeah.
That script runs before you're even fully conscious. It's pulling data from old failure logs to check for threats, even if that data is totally irrelevant now.
Yeah.
The script just executes and you get that morning dread. It's an automated response, not an accurate threat assessment of today.
I think everyone knows that pre-coffee survival check. Your mind just defaults to scarcity, even when your reality is anything but.
Yes. And this leads to a really crucial question the notes bring up. If the fear is just an old log, if it's redundant, why doesn't the I layer just delete the shortcut? Why not just mute the emotional UI?
Right. If you're the system admin, just patch the bug.
Well, the answer seems to lie in the fundamental structure of the physical world itself, what some traditions call Malkuth. The note suggests that fear, guilt, value judgments, they're bugs to be removed.
They're features.
They're essential friction points for maintaining a functioning, real physical reality.
And this is where they bring in that analogy of bacteria in a fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
which completely reframes how you think about negative emotion.
It really does. I mean, bacteria seem dirty, like something you want to get rid of, but the sources stress that they're central to keeping the flow of consciousness viable.
So without fear,
Without fear, the world lacks importance. Without guilt, other people wouldn't seem real. Without value judgment, good, bad, right, wrong, action wouldn't seem meaningful. The PRU apparently needs this friction to render a compelling story.
so suffering isn't a punishment. It's a design feature necessary for interaction.
And the notes, they single out one specific kind of anxiety as the most powerful tool for this. They call it the God-level alert of guilt.
The fear of involving or damaging other people with your reality shift.
That is the ultimate stop code. The old PRU uses guilt because the me layer is programmed to see involving others or, challenging the consensus as psychologically worse than its own failure.
But these notes offer a pretty stark, almost controversial reframing of that for the creator phase.
They do. They say others are often just NPCs, non-player characters rendered by your PRU.
That is a tough concept for the me layer to swallow. It goes against everything we're taught about social responsibility.
It does, but the sources are clear. The guilt you feel about your massive creation is often just the old PRU API alert. It's designed to stop the process by appealing to your social programming. And the core message is, don't let it. Don't let that guilt stop the PRU shift.
That makes perfect sense. If you feel guilty about success, your mental layer will find a way to sabotage the rewrite to get back to a smaller, more socially acceptable reality.
Precisely, and this connects to the deepest insight in all this. The suffering isn't caused by the fear of flying, but by the belief that the restriction not to fly is real. It's like Peter walking on water.
He's fine until he looks down and remembers the old rules of gravity.
Yes. His experience of the storm was based on the old rule book, even though he was operating on a new world line where water was solid ground.
The parallel is perfect.
Your PRU has already shifted to a water-working world line. The new rules are active, success is guaranteed by your I layer. But your men layer is still running calculations based on the old gravity rules: scarcity, risk, failure.
And that mismatch between the art expectations and the new reality is what creates the anxiety.
That's the feeling. The fear of falling is just me still trusting the old rule book it's relied on for 20 years.
Okay, so if the fear is required noise, a sign the update is almost done, and a necessary friction device, what's a practical strategy here? What does the creator actually do?
Well, the core strategy is summarized in this one powerful phrase from the notes. When the anxiety hits, the command is nothing, just marvel.
Nanimo suru na, tada ororok in the original Japanese. So, a state of non-action, but combined with wonder. How do you do that when the alarm is screaming in your ear?
It means you actively choose not to engage with the fear as a command. You don't treat it as a directive. Instead, you just observe the rewriting process itself, like it's this fascinating natural event.
You're stopping me from jumping back in the driver's seat and slamming on the brakes.
Exactly. You're observing a system, not participating in a panic.
So the key is reframing the meaning. It's like a system administrator technique for this specific alert.
That's step one. When the anxiety arises, that sudden dread, the financial panic, you have to reframe its meaning instantly. You do not label it, this is bad, or, as the notes put it, yabai.
Because that label just pulls the me layer right back into emergency mode.
Right. Instead, you label it PRU deployment in progress.
PRU no deploy shinkyu.
That is the essential cognitive shift. You're converting the me layer's emotional fear into a neutral observational process log. You're just acknowledging the system is running hot because it's doing something positive and necessary, not because there's a critical error.
And the notes are very specific that trying to suppress it is the worst thing you can do.
Totally counterproductive. You try to force the sound away, and the me layer just thinks the error is even more critical and turns up the volume.
You can't just mute an error and hope the system runs smoothly.
You'll crash the whole OS.
Yeah.
So the only effective method is to let the sound run in the background while you continue with other things. You're just working in a separate window, so to speak.
Okay, give me some real-world examples. What does working in a separate window look like when that anxiety alarm is blaring?
It's about maintaining neutrality and just continuing life. The goal is to prove to the whole system that the alarm is irrelevant. So you continue daily routines. You go for a walk, you make food, you talk to someone about something totally unrelated.
And crucially, you pointedly do not check your email or obsessively refresh your bank account.
Yes. You're continuing to build the new reality by refusing to validate the old system's alarm.
You're asserting the new world by ignoring the old world's noise.
Exactly. And when you feel that intense anxiety, remember the heat metaphor. An intense OS update makes a PC heat up. Right. The CPU spikes to 100%. Well, the me layer feels that heat as anxiety, as unease, because the rewrite is deep and fundamental. You are not the victim here. You're the system administrator observing the CPU running hot during a necessary upgrade.
It's a sign of maximum energy consumption in the background. The feeling of maximum panic is actually proof that the system is fully engaged in reconfiguring everything.
We've covered a pretty profound shift today. Fear isn't a signal of doom. It's the noise injection device required to hold the world's story together. And the intensity of that fear just confirms how deep the PRU rewrite is.
And the notes hint at the final stage of this, right? The ultimate shift in the nature of the noise itself.
Yes. The anxiety eventually transitions from the fear of running out, that core survival panic, to the fear of running too big.
The fear of scale, of responsibility, the anxiety that comes with massive abundance.
And that evolution of fear, from scarcity to flow, is the final synchronous signal. It's the confirmation that your whole resource architecture has successfully changed. The anxiety you feel now is simply proof that deployment is underway.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over, and it ties back to that necessary friction we talked about. The notes suggest that the magnum opus, the full spiritual journey, must always remain slightly incomplete.
Just think about that. If it were truly finished, all dualities, all friction, all the noise would just cease. And the PRU would interpret that as rendering shutdown. Game over. So is it possible that the persistent noise of fear, that nagging imperfection, is simply the design wiggle room that allows the game of creation to continue? When the alarm sounds, remember the command. Nothing. Just marvel.